I'm Jeremy Hardy. I'm moderating this session. I'm not going to speak for too long because I want to open it up to you because I know the guys are keen to answer questions. I know you will have lots of questions. But on a personal note, I just wanted to remind people that activism is something that anyone can do. Some of you might have been over as international activists in the West Bank. I did quite a long time ago, 10 years ago now, and seeing the film brought everything back, being the casual, daily, licensed brutality of the occupation, the impunity with which Israeli soldiers humiliate, taunt, arrest, batter, and kill, as you've seen in the film. So it's a very, very scary experience, but it's something that internationals can do, and you can put yourself in that situation. It's not, you don't have to be an alien to do that, and I would recommend everybody to, if this film has moved you, and if you haven't been involved in the subject before, stay hold of it, because there's all sorts you can do. There's all sorts of human rights websites, Israeli and Palestinian and international. There are groups in Israel like Gush Shalom, Tarush, B'Tselem, Physicians for Human Rights, Rabbis for Human Rights, Anarchists Against the War. And there are groups like the ISM, the International Solidarity Movement, which is international, who will train you and take you if you feel like taking part in activities. There are also fair trade initiatives like Zaytun Olive Collective, who import fair trade olive oil, and you can buy that. It's delicious olive oil and za'atar and things like that, which help support farmers who obviously are facing the destruction of their centuries-old olive groves by crazy settlers supported by an occupying army. The thing that struck me that I really wanted to ask Emad is how do you deal with that anger? Because watching it yesterday, I was raging because I just felt so reminded of that licensed brutality, that impunity, that the fact that they can calmly murder people. How do you deal with your anger?
Yeah, I think in our situation we live in, in different condition. It's not a good condition in my village or in the West Bank or in Palestine in general. And, everybody have love and anger in his inside. But we always try to control our anger and to feel just to feel that in the moment when you are angry, just to control yourself and to think about different things or to do another things, just not to do actually to control your inside, your personality from inside, and not to go to the violence or to be killed or to kill somebody. So it's important that in the moment when you are angry to control yourself. So we are trying always to control ourselves and to affect the people around us, and to teach them and to teach our kids that they have to do this always.
And could you update us on what's happening in Bil'in at the moment?
Yeah, there's no much change in Bil'in since the old fence was removed and part of the land was returned to the village. But for the people in the village, it's not a big victory because not all the land and people from the village lost their land, their farms, and the settlement's still there and the wall is still there. So people are continue and making demonstrations against the separation wall and the settlement.
I'd like to open it up now. I know there will be lots of questions. Anyone ready to ask a question? Gentleman there. If you speak up, we've got a mic coming to you.
How do you feel as a father not being able to protect your children and not being able to protect the people around you?
Yeah, I think we live, our children, they should live in different situations and like other children and other places. but this is our life, and this is the reality of our life. We live there, and our children, they're born there, and they have to deal with this situation. So the only protection I can give them, that let them see how the situation is gonna be, how their life gonna be in the future. And yeah, so this is the reality. So I cannot, or nobody can hide his children inside the house and not to tell them, not to teach them about the situation, because we live in different situations and different conditions. So it's that important that they learn and they know about the situation, because they see every day, or sometimes in the night or in the day, it's the usually life. They see soldiers and they see violence. So they have to know what's this, to learn what's going on here.
There's one here. We will get around everybody. I'll keep my eyes open. We've got quite a lot of time. So.
Hello. Thank you very much for the beautiful film. I have kind of two questions. One is, there's a beautiful moment where your son gives like the olive branch to the soldier. And I was just wondering, it's probably hard to understand for people who don't live in a conflict area how the soldiers can't see the human side, or how there can't be sometimes some human connection. And I was just wondering if there's ever, between the soldiers and the people, some moments of humanity.
Yeah, we has always a discussion between me and soldiers, because we go through the gate, the soldiers' gate to our land, and sometimes almost most of the time Jibril was with me, because he was connected to me and very close to me. And sometimes, as you see in the film, we were together with Basim El-Fil, the guy who was killed. And yeah, so I think you can see the humanity sometimes in the faces. So you look on the face of the people, you can see the humanity, and you can see the anger or the violence. So in that moment, in that time when Jibril gave the soldiers the olives, so I saw the soldiers from far, and when Jibril went to the soldiers to give him, I saw that soldier is it's so quiet, not so violent. So I thought he will accept the olive from Jibril, and he. Yeah, sometimes most of the soldiers, they don't care. They just want to use violence. They want to shoot. They want to beat. But sometimes you see some soldiers, they are young soldiers, and some of them, they don't want to be in this place, and they don't know what they are doing here. So this is the reality. So. But most of them, they always try to use violence or to shoot.
There's a question there. Lady, hand at the back.
Congratulations again on a fantastic film. Can the two of you please talk a bit about what it was like to work together? Because I imagine there was a lot of challenges there.
Is your mic's on? Do you want to start, Guy?
Okay. Well, I came into Bil'in in early 2005 with other Israeli activists. I was doing work for a video activist movement called Indie Media, probably some of you might know. So we had an Indie Media in Tel Aviv, and I was part of that. So from 2003, I was going to the West Bank to cover different stories. And when this movement got to in 2005 to Bil'in, very shortly after I came there, I was interested to know what's going to be the impact in that village, and then I got to know some people there. The hospitality was very warm, and I felt it was the good time for me to do something there, so I started doing some short video reports, and then I ended up doing a long feature-length film about the water issue in Emad's village. Actually, it's interesting, I chose this issue of the water because when you go to the demonstration, you actually see that there are a lot of cameramen filming, and I didn't want to do another film about the nonviolent movement. There was already one film that was being done, and there were people that I felt are so much into that, so I wanted to aim my camera to another place, so I chose the water issue. And I think that's influenced also. So anyway, to do this film, I stayed in the village for 3 months, and I was living actually in Bil'in, which I think was I was the first Israeli to do that, so it was kind of controversial at the time. And this important period was very important for me to feel the sentiment of what it really means to live under occupation, and not just see the effects like the violence, but also go a bit the mythology of the occupation and the childhood of people and the way they experience things from within. And it gave me the opportunity to go back to my city, Tel Aviv, and see it from another perspective, another point of view, and feel how it looks like a block of occupying territory and not my city. So it was a very important period for me. And I remember in the nights there were soldiers entering to the village to do the arrest of the kids that we see in the film. And every second night I was living in Abdallah's house. It's like one of the houses that were given for foreigners to stay in. And they were knocking on the door saying, "Jesh, Jesh, soldiers," calling me to get out with my camera to film the violence that was happening, because our role as Israelis was to mix with the people, because once we are there, the reaction of the soldier is reduced. And I think that's one of the main reasons why in Bil'in that was such a strong presence of Israelis. The soldiers never knew when there were going to be Israelis around. So there was not, the violence was always, there was no, people were not killed until 2009 when Phil was killed. In other places, like in Bidu, there was few weeks of demonstration, and there were several people that died. So we had a very important role in that sense, and it gave a lot of kind of sense of protection that was important. And now that it's spreading more, I think it helps to this nonviolent movement because it reduces the violence. So anyway, in that one night, particular night, I was there. There were tons of soldiers entering, arresting kids. It was Ramadan. The village was really angry because of so many arrests, so they went out and they were shouting Allahu Akbar, and Israeli soldiers hear Allahu Akbar, they feel that this is a really dangerous situation, so they take out their guns and they target two people. And I was walking with my camera and shouting, "There are Israelis, there are Israelis." I was the only one there. And actually in the morning I found out that the Israeli military radio, which is the main radio station in Israel, is reported there were 40 Israeli present in a night demonstration in Bil'in. So yeah, it's kind of the stories that I had in that period. And in these nights, I met Emad because he was the cameraman from the village. He was called like I was called for 3 months. He was always there for years. And all the cameramen, the other ones, they were doing their thing for a few weeks or for the Friday demonstration and then left. I was there 3 months and then I went back to Tel Aviv. But he was there for years and he could get all this important footage from within. So he became a really important figure with a lot of responsibility to the village to catch everything that happens for a court supreme or for appeals or just to put it on the internet or to engage the community. So so a lot of people tried to support. I know many people send him empty videotapes, and once a camera was broken, people tried, even the Israeli activists or international activists tried to support because he was really important for the village in that sense. So it wasn't very difficult to know Emad because he became one of the most important figures of this movement. So then we knew each other. But the years passed, and I went to my direction, finished my film, and made other things. And there was another film that came out of this about the nonviolent movement. And when in 2009 Emad called me and offered me to make a film with him, I was skeptic, actually, because it was so mediatized that I felt we're not going to be able to access public, and we're not going to be able to to get some funding for that and put it, and there was not reason also for doing it even just because doing another film about the movement. So we had a discussion that, and I offered actually not to focus on the movement, just by the movement, but to tell Emad's story as a cameraman. And I think the moment for me that was, I realized that this is possible is when I watched footage that he showed me, and I saw this old man blocking the jeep from taking someone to prison. And actually, I didn't know this old man. And I asked Emad, who is this guy? And he told me, that's my father, and he's blocking the jeep from taking my brother to prison. But for him, it's another element of violence, and everything in the village is personal, so you don't present it as a more personal moment. So I had to ask a question to get to it, and that for me, that moment, I realized that his decision to stay and focus and just do the filming and not do anything else, for me, that's a reason to make a film. And I think from that point, we started doing progressing more to create a film out of years of footage that he collected, and then we tried to find more scenes and to do the editing, the writing, and everything that takes to do a film.
There was a hand up. Did you want to comment there? Sorry, Emad.
Yeah, to comment about. Yeah, first, when I called Guy in the end of 2009 to join the project, it was for me because I know him. I saw him in the village sometimes, in the day, in the night, in the protest, and I know him before. And it was natural, was not political, because he is Israeli and I am Palestinian. It was a twin human. So was not political decision or just to make a film, Palestinian-Israeli film. And the idea is to make a film from my point of view. So after many years of filming and documenting, and I got the ideas very early from one of my friends to make a film about me, about myself. So I was focusing on my friends, on Jibril growing up and watching the situation.
But when you presented me the project, you told me it's going to be about Phil and Adib.
So Adib and Phil, they were in the main character of the film on the project, and I was focusing more because after Phil's death, so it was affected me. So I decided to put Phil on the focus, not myself. But I know already the film because I was constructing around the friends and family. But I didn't want to use my footage, special footage in the film. Actually, I want to put Phil on focus. But the story is the same. It's about family and the friends and connected to Jibril. But when Guy came to the project, we make a discussion and we talk and we sit together a long time in the village because he could come to the village and I cannot go to Tel Aviv. And so we discuss everything about the construction and the story. And until the last moment, I wouldn't use some of the footage, my footage in the film, because I thought it show me like I am very weak, and I didn't want to focus on myself because in our community and our culture, they will look on me that I'm making film just about myself and what's about the others. So it's took us long time to construct and edit, and so in the end we made it.
There's a gentleman here, and the mic, come to the white shirt on the end.
Hello, congratulations for your film. I have two questions, one which is really related to the way you could film, and the second is, I think, quite political. But the first one is about the way you could film. In the film, sometimes you can be almost on the side of the soldiers, almost filming from their point of view, and sometimes they shoot on you. So I was wondering why you could be in such different situations. Was it depending on maybe the the captain of the group of soldiers, or how comes that you could be sometimes really filming almost as you want, look like, and sometimes being shot by the soldiers? The second question is political, as I said. For the first time in Switzerland, the main supermarket chain decided to mention clearly, explicitly on each product coming from the Israeli settlements. They say it's for reasons of transparency. What do you think of that?
I want to answer the first question first. It was important for me, and I believe that I have to be in this place and to film, to capture everything, because my camera was, I use my camera to protect the people around me. So to protect people, I have to be close to the soldiers and close to the people to capture everything. So I believe of what I'm doing, and I want to do this, even I put life at risk always, and they shot me or they arrest me or they beat me. But in the same time, it's independent sometimes in the commander or the soldiers who are in the place, which soldiers or who is the commander. Because each 3 months they change, but they come again. But sometimes you feel that you deal with the soldiers, they use less violence against people, and sometimes you deal with soldiers, they use violence, they just want to shoot and to beat. So that was sometimes easy for me to capture and to film near the soldiers or in front of the soldiers or behind the soldiers. Yeah, because you need some, I don't want to talk about myself, but sometimes you need courage to do that, to put your life at risk and to capture footage like this. And about the Israelis boycott or the Israelis market, I think it's, for me, it's my opinion, it's good thing, but it's not enough just to do that, just to boycott the Israelis broadcasts. So yeah, because sometimes they use, if this broadcast comes from settlements, they can just change the name and put another name. So you never know where it's come from. And yeah, I think Guy maybe can make a review about this.
I think it's one of
Don't talk about the BDS, they are very angry.
Yeah, the BDS movement is a very complicated issue, so maybe I'm not going to enter to it unless you insist. But
BDS is boycott, divestment, sanctions.
Yeah. It's a big question. Of course, I support it in general. But I think there is a lot of naivety in the way these campaigns are held. And I think, I mean, if I take my iPhone for example, I think I don't have it here, but just if we look every element of the iPhone, where it's produced, where it was developed, what kind of research, your application, where they were produced, where they were developed, how much money was involved, just on this instrument, which is economically much more important than a few oranges. Or I think the war of Israel, of the commercial office on the agriculture thing, is more about pride than about economics. It's more about we're gonna fight all the boycott anyway for that. But I think it's kind of a silly war, because it's not what economically is going to influence Israel. The economics of Israel are influenced by communication, by arms, by strong economics, and the BDS movement is still focusing on just symbolic things or just things that can help the person, the small person, to feel purified with themselves. Okay, I didn't buy an Israeli orange, but I have an HP printer, and you know HP has all the detectors of the separation fences created by HP. And Intel has dozens of factories in Israel, so you have your computer, you consume it freely, but go and don't buy Israeli orange, that's, you know, you're okay.
You might want to think twice.
Starbucks also.
You might want to think twice about buying Caterpillar boots, as you'd be aware that they supply all the equipment for destroying the olive groves and the D9 bulldozers, which the army used to demolish houses. One point of information, sometimes you'll be in a supermarket and you'll see something that says West Bank on it. You think, oh, that's good, I'm supporting the Palestinian farmers. It's from a settlement. Invariably, it's from a settlement, an illegal settlement. It's not, you won't, unless it's very clear that you're supporting Palestinian farmers, you won't be. Yeah. There was a question, there's quite a few now. I'll take those two over there, one after the other, because the microphone can stay in that area, and then we'll come here. Yeah, lady in the front with the glasses. The microphone's coming to you.
Just on the process, really, I think your camera is an incredibly powerful weapon in your struggle, and the film is testament to that, really, and it can't be underestimated how important and powerful that is, not just for you and your own survival, but for us here who are trying to work and raise awareness about what's happening. But because it's such a powerful tool, I'm really puzzled about why the soldiers don't seize your camera or destroy your film. And just on the logistics of it, the scene where you are involved in a crash and you're taken to an Israeli hospital and you manage somehow to persuade somebody to carry on filming. I just wondered if you could explain something about that. Firstly, why don't the Israelis destroy your films all the time? Why do they permit you to film? And also just the logistics of it. How, in some of those scenes, did you manage to continue, or somebody with you continue to film?
Yeah, about the scenes in after the accident, actually, I was not alone in that moment, and a friend of mine and my son Jibril was with me, and he was injured, and so my friends took the camera, and he was filming after the accident with my camera. Yeah, but the camera was smashed in that moment, so it was not, the film was not good. But if you talk about why they, sometimes they confiscate the tape, or they do. Sometimes they confiscate the tape, and sometimes they shot the camera, and sometimes they smash the camera, and sometimes. So if I want to talk about the last 6 years, my experience of filming, it's a lot to say. It's very long conversation, but I want to say that I've been injured many times, more than 20 times by bullets, by rubber bullets, and the 5 cameras, the name 5 cameras came from the camera who I lost, and it's more than 5 cameras. The camera was repaired sometimes twice and was shot, and so they used to stop me, or by different ways, by shot, or by beat me, or by arrest me. So they use different way to stop filming. And I was deported from my house, from my village, to another place, just to keep me away from the situation, or to keep me away from the village. But I came back, and I decided to continue. So it's something that you believe inside to do.
There's another question, a couple of questions directly behind, and then we'll come to the gentleman in the front row here.
Thank you very much for this beautiful film. It really, emotionalized me. And you mentioned earlier that your camera is to protect the people from your village. But as I've seen in the case of Phil's death, you were so close to him, filming as he was shot. And well, you couldn't protect him? Or were there any consequences for the soldiers, like seeing a footage where they arrested? Could you comment on that?
I mean, when I say protect, I mean sometimes the camera doesn't protect me even, but sometimes one of these cameras saved my life when the soldiers shot 2 bullets direct to my face when I was filming, and 2 bullets hits my camera, and one of these bullets get inside the lens, and it is still inside the lens. So when I mean it's protection, it's that I use my camera to protect the people around me from the violence of the soldiers, because sometimes when the soldiers see camera, they just use least violence against the people. And when I mean that, I use the footage when somebody got arrested and he been taken to the Israeli court. I used the footage. I gave the footage to the Israeli lawyers or to B'Tselem or to another organization to use the footage to help this person. And I used the footage many times to release people from the Israeli court. So this is what I mean in protection. And I think the camera is it's more than a witness. It's a very strong weapon, and it's become like my friend and my weapon. And it's very strong weapon. And so the message is to open the eyes of the people and to let them know more about the reality and the truth, not just to hear and to know just TV show or TV news or just propaganda of the governments or lies. So it's important to make documentary and to capture the daily life and the reality.
On the subject of Phil, could I just ask whether there's been any investigation into Phil's shooting, or any soldiers have been disciplined?
After a few years, when this footage was more known, they had to open an investigation. Now we don't know what's going to happen, so we don't have anything to do with it. But I can say about Daba's shooting, Phil's brother, that in that case, for example, there was because this footage was really known also in the internet, then the Court Supreme they charged the soldiers of misbehavior, inappropriate behavior, and the commander was not to be receive his promoted in the. He is going to be promoted, but it's going to be delayed.
Right.
And the soldier that was shooting was lost one of his ranks.
Right.
So and then they appealed to the High Supreme Court, and the High Supreme Court just changed the accusation, not the punishment, which was to be misuse of weapon.
Yeah, I think the case of Basim is still open. Yeah, and I know I'm sure that the law in Israel, it's an army law. That's if you got injured or got killed in war area, or you cannot make a case against the soldiers or the army. So it's that means that Bil'in was war area, or
it's a military court. It means that the judgment is made inside the military. So your judge is the army itself, and only when they appeal to the High Supreme Court, that's above the military law. But if it doesn't get to the High Supreme Court, then it still stays within the army.
Yeah. There's one more over there, and then we'll come over this side.
We'd love to know more about the impact of this film in this country, where it will be shown, and is it being shown in synagogues, for example?
What? Synagogues?
Yeah. Oh. For example, the West London Synagogue in Upper Berkeley Street would show this film. It would be, they're very into, it would be a very interesting screening. And have you considered something like that?
First, the film is going to be shown in Jerusalem Film Festival in July. And then after, it's going to be screened in the Israeli television, Channel 8, which is a documentary channel. And afterwards, it's going to be released theatrically in some cinematheques around the country. And afterwards, we hope to have some community screenings. And of course, it depends on where we're going to be invited. I mean, I would love to screen the film in synagogues, but there's a big differences in communities, and it's not. Synagogue does not function as a community center for the whole population, Israeli population. It's community center for a very specific population, and
a synagogue in this country.
You mean in the UK? It depends. Yeah, of course. I mean, if we're going to have a UK distributor, and they're probably gonna try to have also community screenings, and then it depends also on the engagement of the community and their initiatives. So we're hopeful. Yeah.
And there's questions over in the front here, I think. You had a question here.
My question really follows on from that previous question. I mean, the film is obviously, it gives a devastating insight into life under occupation, and it is an incredibly subversive weapon, I would have thought, for truth. What would you say the mainstream Zionist, Jewish, Israeli reaction would be to this film? I mean, surely most of us confronted with this evidence can only have one reaction, but what do you think people will say about this film?
The mainstream Israeli society is in some sort of state of denial that is ongoing for years. So the big challenge is not to make them look at the film, but to make them, first of all, to bring them to look at the film, because the film is going to be probably first categorized. It's going to be declared as another film in a row of Palestinian and Israeli films. And our challenge, I mean, me personally, what I really wanted for this film to be is to try to find how to remove all the defenses, all the arguments that Israelis, and not just Israelis, but also Israelis, they have when they watch a film. So we try to have a very non-accusing tone and not to enter to this discussion, this tiring discussion of who's victim and who's not victim, and not to try to work too much on Emad's victim being a victim, because obviously you see it in the picture, but in the tone he doesn't say that. He's actually we tried to have a more inspiring character and more something that is approaching to the people and trying to not to push to show. I think a lot of films are shoving the reality to us. And we don't want to we don't want to come and feel responsibility when we come to watch a film. We want to be connected first. I think films are about relations and connection. So so that was, I think, the idea to how to make the film and try to make it reach to new audiences. But then there's a big system of categorization that's saying, well, this film is about Palestinians, so it's a pro-Palestinian. It's, there's a list of titles and of stamps of what the film is going to be. So I think a lot of people, when they do come and see the film, they are completely surprised, and that's great. But they have to come to see the film. And the mainstream society is in denial, so they see something Palestine, they have already a known scenario of what they're going to see. They have a known feeling that they know the reality. Israelis are sure that they're completely aware of where they stay, and that they know more than anyone else in the world what's happening in the world. And that's a big challenge to cross. So.
Are you expecting protests against this film inside Israel?
A protest against the film? I would love if yeah, why not? But denial is not just it's not relate to it. I always say criticize it the way you want. Say why you did that or why you did that, but relate to that. But people that just don't want to relate to, at least with the right wing, at least you have relation. I mean, I like the right wing. They get angry. They look at it. They are more informed. They are interested. But the most of the Israeli population, they are completely misinformed, and they choose not to be informed. And that's
I think first time I was surprised last week in New York after the screening, and it's good always to know not just positive impact or how the people react, because always the reaction was good and strong. But I was surprised last week in New York when one woman came to me and after the screening, and she says that this film will destroy the world peace, will destroy the peace in the world. So I told her, where's the peace? Maybe it will destroy your peace, not the world peace.
No,
yeah, so it's good to know and good to hear negative reaction.
My first film I screened in a high school. They actually invited me, which was quite rare. For me, this is the best audience, high schools in Israel. And the kids were completely, I want to react about the protest. The kids were really angry. They were angry at me. They were shouting at me. And I told them, you know, great, angry as, feel anger as much as you want. Do, you know, react to me. That's great, because I think also they are angry because there's a lot of anger also in us, because we were lied for years and years of education. We are telling lies, and then sometimes it's too late. Sometimes we discover that after we've been to Israeli military service, after we're already paid big price for this lies, and then it becomes much more difficult to confront that. But high school students, they are still in the edge. They are being lied right now. They're going for my film, and then they go back to the system of education to get lies, and then, whoa, there's a big contradiction. So that's, so I think protest is already a good sign of engagement, but I wanted to say that because we didn't want the film to be provocative. I want people to feel anger for that, but we didn't, I think a lot of the movement, the political movement, is targeting to create provocation, as if provocation is constructive. It's like, don't do a campaign for Madonna not to show in Israel or whatever. But in Israeli society, I don't think provocation is now constructive, but they really, if a protest is a sign of anger, then that's great.
Got one in here, and then I'll come to you in the back row, because you had your hand up a long time, and then we'll come back to you.
Do you not feel responsibility as an activist to use this film and the documentary evidence that you've got of a blatant murder of many people to make sure that these cases do not remain in the military courts and that they go further to the Supreme Courts? And is it a case of the fact there isn't enough support or money to keep these cases going, the reason why they don't go to the Supreme Court? Because there have been a few cases where, by persistent energy and money being put into these cases, results have happened and soldiers have been persecuted and sentenced.
I think in general films, or at least I can speak generally on film, but maybe for that film, we wanted to create a film that will have an emotional impact on people, and that will create motivation in people to be engaged and to create relation. That was the way it was created. If we wanted to create a film that would practically would be a practical instrument in one element of the occupation, because the occupation is in every system in our lives and in their lives. So yeah, I think it would be a complete different film.
But I think the question is
It doesn't need to change the film. I think it can be both. Because what
you're talking about the film footage being evidence that can be used in a prosecution. You've got a murder.
That's assuming that there is a good system that is trying to work for the best of the people. But
you do have a civil justice system as well as, I mean, you can prosecute soldiers from.
Look, there is a film here in the festival. It's called The Law in These Parts. It's about the military judgment, and all their target audience is the army and the juridical system in Israel and in the world, and they couldn't get to screen it to the army. So, you know.
Well, I mean, I think at least try and I think I think there's the persistence and the campaigning and indie media and activist networks. Just the persistence. So I think that's what happens. People become disheartened, feel that they cannot take any further, but with persistence. With Tom Handle's parents, for example, they've just spent their whole lives campaigning for justice for Tom Handle. Rachel Corrie, I know they were a Western activist, but.
You know, I think everyone should choose his combats. There are so many combats to do, and that's the combat that I chose to do with Emad. In that strategy, I don't believe that any film can change this system. It can change consciousness of people, of society, but not the system of the military. It's
no, I wouldn't say. I think that you could actually, but basically not to leave these cases
Not
behind.
to give up, I
Not
think,
to
is the
give up.
point, because
Yeah.
the footage that you have could actually be used in a prosecution because it is incontrovertible proof of a murder.
But the footage is out there for 2-3 years,
Pardon?
The footage is out there in the internet for 2-3 years. That's in the media. In the media is not about films. In the media is about releasing information out there, and the information is already out there. It's not about me or him or the information.
I wasn't suggesting you have to do it personally,
okay.
But you could launch a campaign with the film or give a way of people of getting involved and campaigning.
Sure, if there is an initiative,
well, somebody else
I would,
can. But basically, the film can provoke so much anger. People want to be able to channel it some way and somehow, and that's the point I'm making. I mean, more films now are being used in that way, and there are campaigns that live beyond the film. It doesn't necessarily have to be you as a filmmaker,
yeah.
but you're also activist and connected in those networks. So I think it would be a shame not to use this film as a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these discussions can continue.
I have to emphasise, I'm not saying that is your single responsibility.
No,
I think collectively.
Yeah.
It depends on the engagement of all the NGOs around us and all the people around us, of course.
Yeah. Well, these are discussions that can carry on afterwards. I think Guy and Emad will be around. Do you want to go to the question in the back row there?
Is it working? Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm working with the Open City Docs Fest, where we're showing this film on Thursday night as part of our opening in London on Thursday night. And we're also showing it at the Frontline Club, just in answer to somebody who was asking where else it's going to be shown. And we're also putting it up for a Grand Jury Award, because we really, really like this film. So congratulations, and I'll introduce myself properly to you after. But I just wanted to, I spent time in Palestine last year, actually, and somebody asked me to make a film while I was there. On Shuhada Street, because the local Palestinians weren't allowed to go on the street, and as an international I was. But I thought a lot after making it about audience. They asked me to make it for an international audience, but I also went back and showed it to the local audience and asked for their opinions, and I changed part of it because of stuff that they wanted to change in it. And I guess what I'm asking is how you sort of deal, because you mentioned it a little bit in terms of putting yourself in it, and how you deal with this question of an international audience that you want to inform or motivate or become aware, and also your kind of more Palestinian, your local community, but also the wider Palestinian people who watch this, and how you think it's different or not, or how you made the film with this in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I think the idea since the beginning that started that to make the film, it's important to make the film for the Western audience, for Europe and United States, and to screen the film in the Middle East, in Palestine. But you know, we know already about our situation, and we live there. So, and you know, the people here in Europe or United States, they have no idea about the reality, about our life. And so the message is to you, to Europe and to United States, because films, I believe that film can change situation and can change system, but through people, through you. So this is your mission to change the system.
I want to say something about that, because we have different opinions about that. I think it's really important for the film to be shown in Palestine. Because I think the non-violent movement is still a growing movement, and it still has big challenges inside of the Palestinian community. And I think the choice that people of Bil'in, and like the choice that Emad made to work with me, and the people of Bil'in to have Israeli and international activists engaged in such depth together, is not something that is always obvious. So we wanted to. I think it's good for people to see this film, because it's a kind of a collaboration of Israeli and Palestinians that is not what they expect. I think people in Palestine are used to see fake collaborations of Israelis and Palestinians in kind of dialogue projects that they are tired of and we're tired of. let's put Israelis and Palestinians just together, they speak together and something will come out, and as long as they can live together, there is hope, or this kind of really stupid projects that actually come a lot from the EU and from the US, and supported by Israeli because it serves Israeli society, and it's frustrating for Palestinians because we give them a sense of purification, but we don't get change. So I think, but at the same time, I think there is an importance for us to be engaged because occupation affects on us, on Israelis' life. And I think there is strength to it, a big strength to this kind of collaboration. It's a new form of collaboration, and I think it's a model that we have to share with Palestinians. So for me, it is really important.
Couple over here, and then one here.
Hi there. I think one of the things that comes across, especially at the beginning of the film, is that idea that it seems like you were making it, for yourself, for your community, and again, as you said, for the safety of the people around you. And I think that's one of the things that makes it extremely powerful, especially those personal moments. But at what point, and you must have been a point when you thought, actually, this can go much further than my local community. It can actually be, what it is now, a movie. And was there a point when you thought, oh, actually, I'm filming this for sort of a further purpose now?
What's the question, please?
What I mean is this on? Yeah. What I mean is, at the beginning, it seems like you're filming it, just for yourself and for your community.
Yeah.
But over those 5 years, was there a point when you're like, oh, this can be much bigger? It can be international.
Yeah, I think first when I saw many people, filmmakers or directors, come to my village to make a film and to ask for footage, to ask me for footage to give them, and I gave many filmmakers footage who came to the village or news agency. So when I got the idea to make film about myself, I just said, no, I'm not going to make another film about Palestine or about the war, because many films were made about the subject. So what's if I go and do another film? So it's the same thing. So I decided to focus on my friends, on my family, on my life, and to make it, to build it later after many years of shooting, to build it around me and around my family. It's more. So you show a different way of making films, and so people can know a little bit and can understand about the life, the real life, in not just conflict and violence and war and Palestine. So it was important to take this footage for the film.
There's one there and then one here and then another one in the front row.
Yeah, I would like to know if some of the sequences were kind of shot during the editing process, so that the editing guy required us, because some of the sequences seem to be there so precisely that it's so good that was there. So, which is nothing wrong with it, but it's just a matter of whether you kind of found kernel points maybe that you needed, and you could just make sure that you got them. And then I have another question, which is, it seemed to be a film that was difficult to finance because they have many financiers. And I would like to know if it was difficult to convince the financiers, or how is it that nobody kind of jumped it and kind of got it more easily? It seems that it was difficult. Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. So, well, in 2009, when we started creating a film from Emad's footage, I think in the beginning there were a lot of demonstrations, night arrest, direct actions, this kind of footage that was that we had a lot of it, hours and hours, and the idea was to focus on to try to find everything that is personal in the footage and try to link it to Emad. So Emad's brother's arrest and Emad's father's scene and some gifts, jewels that we had in the footage, mainly when Jibril, for example, was connected to Phil, so you have Phil and Jibril, or when the kids are connected to the wall, so Emad filmed that because they are connected to the wall. And then on the parallel, we had all Emad's home movie video that I don't think he thought that it will be part of the film, things that he shot for his, as a family man, as a father, and we used that. But the thing is, there was a big difference between tons of violence, with the characters also, and then the homemade footage. And there were some linking scenes that we had, but there were some linking scenes that we didn't have. So I think during the year that we started working together, I was not filming, but we spoke about having scenes that will help to make this connection more organic. So, you know, scenes like Emad's wife asking him to stop filming, or, you know, if, for example, if Emad was filming a night arrest, so the instinct is that there is a night arrest, you go out and you film the night arrest. But now he was staying at the house and filming what's happening with the kids, or going on the rooftop and filming Jibril, or going with Jibril in the car to the demonstration, or speaking the talk with with Emad's wife Soraya and Jibril. So these kind of scenes that help to create the link between the personal elements and the social elements, that they were, and sometimes they are located a bit different in the chronology, but they were created once we already have kind of a structure of the film. These were the mains. Then there were also developments that happened after, like we waited a long time to get to the destruction of the old wall, and then the building of the new wall, and Jibril's first birthday, and there were some kind of elements that we were waiting for them to finish the narrative of the film. Now for that's in general. It was also the treatments and this. Now for the finance, it actually, you know, I hear so much people saying, it's so tough, it's so hard, and it's so tough. For us, it was very easy. Really, it was. We had a good, brilliant footage. We had all the elements for a good film. We had a very good trailer, and people were really open to help us. So we started in the greenhouse development project. They were so helpful for us, and they opened up for us the opportunity to work with other funders and TVs. And then one thing leads to another. There's one more fund that gets aboard, and a new television, and one thing leads to another in a very nice atmosphere. And of course, there's a lot of work to it, and to make it happen. And there's also, it's very hard to find people who can commit at one point and say, I want to support it. And I think that's a bit what's annoying about this industry, is that people, they're just, they don't take strong decisions. So I have a strong respect for these who take the strong decision, that you don't have to run after them. I don't like to run after anyone. So if they don't want to, if they want me to run after them, I don't want them. I prefer not to have their money, So, and I think with that kind of approach, we managed to have the good partners. Probably not the biggest budget that we could have had, but any one of our partners were really, they really wanted to be in that film. So that's the best partnership that we can have.
I just want to add something about this. Sometimes people say that some footage was taken by accident or by home footage, or I know that some of this footage was taken home footage, but I know that most of the footage was taken for the film, not just by accident. Like when I show him the footage of my father, I show him because I know the film is going to in this direction.
No, this is not home footage, but if you film Jibril
baby. But even the scenes of Jibril, when I was fixing the car and he told me, why you don't kill the soldier? So I was directing the footage because I know Jibril was always asking questions about the situation and the fit. So I put the camera aside and I was fixing the car, and he came and he started asking questions. So it's not homemade or so it was this is the reality of the.
And while the microphone comes to the front row over here, there's a couple here. Could I just ask, what logistical problems have you had with travel? Because for Palestinians, it's very hard to travel, and for Israelis to go in and out of the West Bank is actually technically illegal, I believe. And what kind of, have you had to use certain strategies or lines to be able to travel, or do you get interrogated about what you're doing while you're going in and out of Palestine?
Yeah, my situation is different as a guy.
Yeah.
Guy, he can go to the airport 2 hours before and take the flight, but for me, each time I have to go 1 day before to Jordan to take my flight, because I'm not allowed to take the flight as all the Palestinians from Tel Aviv. And it's the airport is 30 minutes from my house, not so far. So each time I have to travel and to spend 12 hours waiting in the line, and sometimes they close the border and they just tell you go back. And so I prefer always to go 1 day or 2 days before the flight, and when I go back I have to wait 1 day to cross the borders. So this is the most difficult moments in my trip from the West Bank to Jordan. And to come to the UK or to United States or to Europe, always I need to apply for a visa. So it's the process takes time always. So so it's always busy and difficult.
And are they becoming familiar with you as you go through the crossing into Jordan? Are the Israeli authorities getting used to you? It's that guy again, it's that camera guy. I mean, are they getting used to you, or are they getting annoyed with you?
No, they never spoke to me about.
So it's just queuing up
ask
and
questions. Or,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.